One championship, 8 races, legendary circuits, drivers from all over the world, one family, one passion, endurance racing. Welcome to the most professional endurance racing series for all drivers, amateurs, semi-professional and professional. Welcome to the 24-hour series powered by Hankook. Can you beat the challenge of 8 endurance races? Will you become the 24-hour series champion for 2021? This is endurance. It is the night-time practice. Welcome along if you're joining us either in sound or in vision. We have both at radio-show.co.uk. And for those of you who are night owls, we've got some overnight coverage tonight as well in the shape of some Porsche racing as well. Dubai Mugello, Ricard, Circuit Paul Ricard, Hockenheimring, all down and done. And we have this weekend, then the Coppa Florio at the beginning of October, and then with a bit of luck and a fair wind, we'll be in Sebring in November for the contiguous 24 hours of Sebring. First time that's happened in Central Florida. So that's how the rest of the season looks. Let's head down to the pit lane and Nick Damon, who's out enjoying the evening warmth.
Hello, John. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Barcelona 24 Hours 1966. And in GT3, have a lovely light blue E-Type. In the GT4 class, a fantastic Corvette. And here, look, in the TCR class, we have a lovely Ford Falcon indeed. So these are the cars which would be doing this if it was 56 years ago. But no, in 2021, we have a whole grid full of GT3s, GT4s, TCRs, SPXs, you name it. The latest, the cream of the crop of motor racing's Pro-Am drivers are here to compete for 24 hours starting at midday local time tomorrow to win the trophy for Fermi Vermeer. I've got this wrong. I really need to read these things, don't I? It's typical of me. I've lost the thing, and it is, of course, Fermi Velez.
Fermi Velez.
See, do you know what happened there, John? I looked at that, but it's too small for my old eyes to see anymore. That's the big change, of course. From the 20 months I've not been in the pit lane, I now need glasses. Nightmare. But we have an hour and a half of cracking action. I think hopefully we're going to get a few slightly longer interviews with some of the great and the good of the Creventic series and some interlopers from completely different series as well. And we'll have a look up and down and get the idea what actually makes up this fantastic championship as everyone gets their night laps in, gets to drive around this amazing circuit. And as Johnny said, actually very, very dark in the boondocks way over there in turn 3 and turn 4. But I'm looking forward to a cracking 90 minutes of action.
Nick, before you disappear, what's the atmosphere like down there in the pit lane and the paddock? It has been a long break. So, what's it like, do you think, the people that you've talked to, are they happy to be back? Have they missed it? Have they just been planning? What's the situation?
I think it's a really good question. I think I had dinner with Baz Cooten of Baz Cooten Racing, and Baz is doing, he said, 60 meetings a year now in various different championships. But this is one of his favourite events. One, of course, we cut his teeth, certainly the TCR class. I think interesting. I get the impression the rest of Europe's been moving on without us a little bit. They've been carrying on, and we've been a little bit stuck in our island, haven't we? Certainly as far as the commentary side is concerned. But the atmosphere is fantastic. Everyone's happy to be here. Everyone's working really well together. It's a very, very light and joyful environment, I think. I think people are enjoying this. The weather, of course, here in Barcelona has traditionally been too hot for a couple of the last 3 or 4 runnings, and now it's actually really, really pleasant. It's perhaps the nicest weather possible to race in. Not too hot, not too cold. You can go out in the evening in just one layer, and I think everyone's really, really enjoying it. So yeah, I mean, it's a great atmosphere. It's a great event, and I think it's. I get the impression it may be a pretty good race as well.
Well, thanks. We'll get back to you. We'll be talking to a lot of the drivers and team members in this next 90 minutes or so, because the grid, of course, is set. Hopefully we won't be talking about too many issues in terms of cars out on the track. What we want to see is all 32, 33 cars doing some meaningful running this evening. Stay with us. We've got full live sound and vision for you. No blocks or breaks, of course. It is an event that is open to the public. And as we were saying in our qualifying coverage, Saturday night, around about 10 o'clock, 10:30, it'll start to get very, very busy indeed, as the local community, who love their racing round here. First of all, why wouldn't you? You've got a Grand Prix, you've got MotoGP, you've got World Superbikes, you've got all kinds of events around here. Also big rallying country round here as well. The local roads are phenomenal, and everybody round here is a racing driver. It's a bit like everybody in Hollywood is just an actor who's between parts. Everybody here is a racing driver between drives, and they love it, and they come out in force, the locals, to the circuits, park up on the far side from the pits, and all of those car parks are absolutely chocker from about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night through till half midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then people drift away Saturday night and have a bit of a lie-in on Sunday, I suspect. Expect to see the vast majority of cars out on the circuit here. We've already had 22 cars leaving the pits lane. Run through some of the drivers and teams in a wee moment. If you didn't see our coverage of qualifying earlier on, first of all, have you got a note? Because you are late now. And did you see the Alpine coverage? Oh, Alpine race was great. Got another one of those tomorrow. So plenty of tin top racing overnight, with a couple of races from Ningbo, and then we've got the Alpines in the morning, and then in the break overnight Saturday to Sunday we've got the third of the Porsche races from Ningbo. So if you weren't with us earlier on, it'll take you no time at all to pick things up, because there's a lot of regulars here this weekend on what is, Johnny Palmer, a pretty well stacked entry list here in terms of manufacturers and teams and indeed drivers.
Yeah, it's most impressive, isn't it? And always Barcelona brings a good entry. People want to race at this event. It wasn't that long ago when the 24 Hours of Barcelona was exclusively a touring car event and GTs were not permitted to take part, but that changed a little, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and you almost forget that now, because so at home the big GT3 cars are around this Grand Prix circuit. It's great that we've got a crowd as well, because I was at Barcelona back in April for the opening ELMS event of 2021 to witness Team WRT's first ever victory in ACO rules racing. They've since then taken the 24 Hours of Le Mans victory at LMP2 level as well, but unfortunately during that weekend it was very much behind closed doors, and there is something about the circuit Barcelona de Catalunya that is lost when you don't have fans in the grandstands and you don't have fans up against the fence witnessing the racing for real.
Don't disagree with that. I think we fare less badly than some other sports. Football, tennis, one or two others. Not golf, interestingly. Golf's much better without spectators shouting in the hole all the time. In fact, they should never have spectators at golf events if they're going to behave like that. But I think motor racing, as I say, fares less badly than some other because
it's the sound that we can hear now, cracking through the stillness of a Catalonian evening, of the engines that at the moment Moni is listening to in the Pacific Northwest of the US, working on her dissertation at the moment. And it'll be those car engines. I know she's not necessarily looking at the pictures as well, but it'll be the sound of those car engines that will be getting through the atmosphere of the darkness. And it is very dark, I'll tell you all, if you're not on the pictures. We do have live pictures, by the way. They are free for you if you've got the bandwidth. Go to radio-show.co.uk. I've got 24H series website. The links are all there. And there's just something about cars in the evening and in the darkness, particularly at a track like this, where Le Mans, you kind of get used to it at Le Mans to a certain extent. But at a Formula One track like Silverstone or here at Barcelona, JP, the darkness is a bit more of a novelty, and I say that in the best possible way. It's a bit more unusual to see racing cars going around, and from our usual commentary box in the grandstands opposite the pits, we can see quite a lot of the track, and seeing the headlights at the other side of the track and trying to work out what that means for that car and all that sort of stuff. It's just not what you expect at the Grand Prix circuit, is it?
No, and it's funny, I suppose, the feeling of what should be taking place at any particular track. And like you say, Le Mans, well, yeah, nighttime racing just comes automatically with that. But that's the great thing about Creventic racing. Where they can, they will race into the darkness hours. At the same time, if they want to get a 12-hour race into somewhere that doesn't permit noise beyond a certain point, and they can work out a way in the schedule to split the race and do a bit on the Friday, a bit on the Saturday. But this has always been the home of a 24-hour race for many, many years, way before 24H Series actually got involved. And I'm sure that there will be a number of fans that have been coming to this event September sort of time each year, which would disagree with our theory, our kind of plan that it's not quite right for nighttime running, because it has been done for a number of years, but only on one weekend. I suppose you could say the same about Le Mans as well, but yeah, it conjures up racing of sprint type nature, Grand Prix, an hour and a half, and then you're done. It can also, though, host some really good longer distance stuff like this.
Good evening as it is to Jatinder and the rest of the family, although Jet tells me that the kids are glued to their phones at the moment. Not entirely certain what they're watching, but they should be watching this as Marco Seifried goes down to turn one. Let's describe a lap for you. Braking down into the right-hander at turn one. Take the red and white curb on both sides of 1 and 2 and let the car breathe out to the right before you commit the turn 3. You don't have to be all the way over to the left there. Change your camber right in the middle, so you short shift there, and you heard that the Porsche wasn't at full revs as he shifted up. Under the bridge, ease it into turn 4, which is the right-handed hairpin, going up at the end of the corner. Now, all the way to the left-hand side and a downhill braking area into 5. He's got traffic ahead of him. It's the BMW Club Sport competition in GTX. He's got through that. Oh, TCX, excuse me. Got past that. Now starts to climb the hill through 7, right up to the yellow sausage curb in 8, and then turn 9. It's a real commitment corner as he goes past the G55 Ginetta and took slightly too much curb, had to lift off, so it's not going to be a great lap for Marco. Now down to the newly reprofiled turn 10. There is no turn 11 now. It used to be a real corner there, but effectively you just straighten it out now. It's not even a kink, to be honest, and you're climbing all the time. Marco's sticking to the inside as we go through 12. Straighten it up for 13. Commit from right on the green. Got his left-hand Hankooks on there. If that was MotoGP, that lap would be cancelled because he was well on the green there. Now down through the curbs. Don't hit the curbs. Don't hit those big yellow things, Bradley. Don't hit them. Through the final corner. Out onto the green again, but pulls it back before the curb ends. And that was Herbert Motorsports number 92 in the hands of Marco Seifried, doing a lap
of 1:52.215. So that was a very decent lap indeed, JP.
Yeah, and we come to expect nothing less really from Marco Seefried. It always surprises me to look him up to find he's still only a silver-rated driver by the FIA. You always think he must have had results to bump him up the table a little bit more than that, but was at Le Mans this year with Absolute Racing in GTE AM, and Marco Seefried still a crucial entrant into things like the Nürburgring 24 Hours. He did Daytona a couple of years ago as well, but loves his 24H Series racing, particularly with Herbert Motorsport, and put out then for the opening phase of night practice. So Marco fastest, Krista Jørgens in the P4 entry for car collection. That's the new Audi R8 Lms Evo 2. That's second fastest, and then it's Francesco Gutierrez Aguil in the PCR Sport Ferrari, third fastest, as we can get some news from Nick Damon in the pits.
It's not really news, it's a chat with Ivo Broikers. Ivo, first of all, it's great to see you. It's great to actually be back in his pit lane again. There's a kind of wonder, how have you managed to secure a very rare 992 Gen 993 to run?
I never driven the 991, so for me the 992 is the first Porsche I've driven. I like it very much.
And how did you get hold of it? Because they're in short supply, aren't they?
Sorry?
How did you get it? They're in short supply, aren't they?
Yes, no, it's not ours. We rented it from Spilo, from Andre. So it's a rented car, but we're looking into it maybe to acquire one in the future. But this one is rented.
And you've misplaced Rick this weekend. Where's Rick this weekend?
Rick is at the moment in the Blancpain series, in the Nürburgring of the GT series, and the Nürburgring with Mount Panda. So we miss him now also regarding to try to get a good setup.
Obviously, you're a major part of the Creventic series. I mean, how has it been going this year with all the delays we've had? It's been 5 months or so since the last race, but we're still going, yeah?
We're still going, and we are trying to do what we can do. And I think it's good that we give the people the opportunity. We keep on doing that, and hopefully the situation will change for the better, and we can have more teams and more drivers on the grid.
Now, you're in the Gpx class because your car's too new. Normally that class is like a couple of stragglers, but it's a massive class this year. We've got loads of KTMs, 2 Vortexes, so you're up to the real fights, aren't you?
Yeah, it's extremely interesting because you have different cars, different fuel consumption, different tire wear as well. The KTMs are a little bit faster, but we don't know how they behave along the race, so it's going to be an interesting class, I think, to follow.
Great stuff. Thanks, Rick. Rick, sorry, thanks, Luke. Well, Evo, my gosh. Do you know what? It's one of them. One of the Broikers, honestly. The identification's gone wrong.
He looks young enough.
Well, yeah.
He looks young
it's
enough.
The mask.
Just giving him a compliment
it's the
there,
mask.
mate. That's fine.
That's what it is. I'm fine if I can see a whole face. Half face, could be anybody.
So Speed Lover GT, Cup car, should I say? The silver grey, which is called GT Silver in Porsche speak. That was the colour that all of the 992 GT3 Cup cars were originally supplied in. Nowadays, of course, not the single monochromatic class that those races used to be when they were all supplied in flat white, not even Carrera, right? But very impressive pieces of machinery. Still the 4-litre flat 6, but a completely new body shell, of course, for the 8th iteration of the venerable Porsche 911. Very much in line with the street cars. There are fewer differences now, actually, in the running gear of the Cup cars than there have been in the past, because the road cars have got double wishbone front suspension. And in fact, in some ways, you might say that the road cars are slightly more sophisticated because they've got different wheels diameters front to rear, whereas the race cars stick with their 18-inch 18-inch rims. Nick is going to do as best he can to speak to as many people down in the pit lane. We saw some of the classic cars earlier on, and I suspect that our next
interview guest is something to do with what's been going on with us. Did you say Nick Manassi in there, Mr. Damon?
Absolutely, Nick Manassi. But no, he's part of EDEC Sport. He's driving. I know you're driving. How come you're actually driving and not managing this car?
I'm doing a bit of both, you know. Now it's something we do each year, and it's fun to go back behind the wheel and have some fun with the driver we have all year. I mean, the team is well prepared. They know what they have to do. So after that, you know, there is plenty of people to do that job right now.
I know we're in Barcelona, but sum up the difficult weekend you had at Le Mans. I mean, were you happy at the end because you had some problems with one of the cars, didn't you?
Yeah, it was actually more complicated than he has to be, but it's part of it sometimes, you know. Unfortunately, it's a bit 2 years in a row we have this problem, but the final result was good. I think we are finished where our place was. We finished 6th. It was good. Performance was good. The car was reliable. The guy worked very well. So in general, yeah, I'm very happy with this.
How easy is it for you to kind of sit there managing? Do you still get the desire to go in and drive it and show how it should be done in these big races?
Yeah, of course. Sometimes you're thinking, I just really want to go in it now. I'm not sure what you say is right, but hey, you have to step back and to let them work because they are a very good driver we have on the car, and they, you know, I've done my time. I still enjoy it. I'm not a retired racing driver, but I am doing something else.
Looking to this weekend, it's your first run around this new configuration. Did you like it?
Yeah, there is not much change, to be honest. I feel the corner is a little bit better because it's less stop and go, so there's a bit more flow in it. It's a little bit more tricky on power because it's a long radius corner. But yeah, I like it. I mean, Barcelona is a tough track. It's physical, tire degradation is pretty high, temperature are pretty high as well, and in the traffic is not easy, so it will be a challenge this weekend, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more faster cars, though, isn't there? It's going to be less overtaking because the majority of the cars, of course, are in the faster classes.
Yeah, it's always, let's say, yeah, there is less slower car, but there still is traffic, and you have to still manage it well because it depends on the level of drivers. You know, it's a series where you have the good mix of gentlemen and pros, and everybody need to respect everybody in there, and especially the faster guy need to respect the slower guy. So yeah, it's a mix, and you make a difference in the traffic, but as long as it's not too crazy.
And as the most experienced driver, do you get to start the race, or will that go to Paul-Loup?
It'll be Paul-Loup. Paul-Loup will start the race, and I go a bit later on. I will do my fair share of driving, huh?
Excellent. Nick, thanks very much. Great to see you in a meeting again. And actually, John, if you want, at some point, I can give you the answer to the question I asked Johnny at the end of qualifying about who's in what class in GT3.
I'll speak for John Hindhoff and say, yes, that's absolutely a fantastic idea, Nick, because I let you down, only because my mind was elsewhere at the time, and also I didn't have the right bit of paper. Much like you at the start of the broadcast, in fact. I wasn't blaming my eyes, I was just blaming my the stack of paper that didn't contain the bit that differentiates between the various GT3 categories. But that is, that's down to the teams and what they want to do in terms of whether they gain a bit of advantage on the fuel tank size, lose a little bit on general performance. But Nick sounds like he's got his ear to the ground on that one.
Yes, I have.
We can hear from Nick now, in fact, with the full details.
But let me just say, I'm going to ask you here, how do you think I found out this information?
2 words,
yeah.
Peter and Fry.
No, but the first one was close.
Okay.
It's Paul and Trustwell.
Yes.
Okay, so we have this situation. The number 7, which is United Motorsport, is in pure AM, just AM. The 16 PCR Sport, that's a Ferrari team, that's in AM Advantage. EDEC, behind me, are in Pro. They've got too many fast drivers. The 18 of Rutronic Racing with their Audi are in AM. The WTM by Phoenix Ferrari, which was second in qualifying, is in Pro. Car Collection Motorsport, the 34, is in AM Advantage. CP Racing, our American friends, they're in AM. The 91 Herbert that took pole with the Renault brothers, Ralph Bond and Alleman, they're in AM, and the other one, the 92 Herbert, is in AM Advantage. What does that mean, I hear you say? Well, basically, it's mostly a bit about weight and about fuel. If you go into AM or AM Advantage, your car is slightly lighter than if it was in Pro, and you get more fuel. So for Advantage, the maximum fuel you can put in the dynamic, the WTM powered by Phoenix Ferrari is 92 litres, whereas the car collection, which is AM Advantage, gets 120, and half of that within, of course, Code 60. So there's a good mix, but the idea is you're still all in one class. There aren't 3 trophies or three podia. It's entirely down to the fact that this is the sort of handicapping system. You've made your car lighter, you've made it have more fuel, but the disadvantage of that is you have to run your lower rated drivers longer. So it's a kind of an evening out process across the entirety of the GT3 class. There's many different things in there, but it does of course affect things, tactics, and certainly having a lot of extra fuel. You know, you've got some cars with 29 litres more fuel on board. That means they get much longer runs, it gives more flexibility at Code 60s. But with less cars and a big Grade 1 circuit, there may be less Code 6 anyway, Johnny. These are the parameters we're already thinking about hours from the start of the race.
And the other thing we should remind people about is the fact that there were races not too long ago where you had to, if you were in one of the AM categories, adhere to a specific lap time, and you couldn't be quicker than that. There were 10 occasions, I remember 10 jokers, where you could go underneath that time, but that is very much a thing of the past now in the 24H series, and the 3 layers of GT3 running kind of replaces that. By the way, all classes apart from the 2 layers of GT3 AM and the 991 AM class, you are, as far as your driver combination is concerned, allowed a maximum of 2 pro drivers. The number of semi-pro drivers is entirely up to you, but you must also have at least 1 AM driver. So that's for the GT3 Pro division. If you go into GT3 Neutral, or just GT3 AM Standard, AM Standard if you like, AM Neutral, there is a maximum of 1 pro driver in that, and then you can go as high as, you must have at least 2 AM drivers in there, but only 1 pro. And if you're in GT3 AM Advantage, you're not allowed a pro at all. So that's the difference as well, is that if you cut down on your driver combination and theoretically how fast they should be able to go on paper, then you are eligible for AM Advantage and a slight advantage therefore on fuel tank size and power as well. So it's not a question of going, oh yes, we'll just have the class which is just faster and better than everybody else. It does mean that you have to adhere to much more strict driver combinations as a result. So we had
go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah. I knew that gap would confuse the two of us. Just over 20 minutes to go, but yeah, you were going to say, make sure that everyone still gets in touch with us over the evening period. I tell you, this has changed the atmosphere for me very much. I love running, particularly here at Barcelona in the night time. There's enough ambient light, or kind of, sorry, not ambient light, but the light over in the grandstands that seem closed this weekend, the giant grandstands over at turns 12 and 13, but 1 or 2 people in the big grandstand that overlooks the main straight, and in my favourite one as well that overlooks the reprofiled La Caixa corner at turn 10.
Still just over an hour to run. I'll run through some times, JP, not, for the sake of probity and veracity rather than anything else, because obviously the grid is set and you can find out all the details, by the way, about this weekend. Entry lists, the digital programme is there as well, with Bradley's behind the garage door commentary on there as well, his column. We've set the grid. It's all there. It will be so this is really, we're getting an idea of some race pace here. It's Herbert 92 quickest with a best of 1:49.3. It's a few seconds off what we saw in qualifying in daytime. In pretty much perfect conditions. It was warm but not overly hot. 1:50.0 for the 22 Ferrari of WTM, powered by Phoenix in second. Number 500 is the brand new Audi R8 Lms Evo 2. Now this is the first time this car has competed, and it's the first time it's been seen in public. Car Collection Motorsport are using the car this weekend, Martin Lechman behind the wheel. It's running in a separate class. It's called P4 for the want of it being called anything else. It's not yet running homologated or under balance of performance, which is why it's outside of competition, preventing it with Hankook. Herbert in 4th is the pole sitting car, which is the number 91 Daniel Alleman behind the wheel of that car at the moment. I'll just run through the top 6 before we go back down to the pit lane. Dynamic and their Porsche in 5th. PCR Sport in the pits with their Ferrari, which is listed as a 458 Italia. Nick, I need you to show me that Dynamic Motorsport number 7 car, that PCR Sport number 16 car, because I'm pretty certain it's not a 458.
Hello, first of all, let's. Yes, I can see the car behind me, but I'm going to have to first chat to Samantha Tan from ST Racing. Sam, first of all, there's a bit of work going on your car there. It's up on a block. What's the problem?
I'm actually not sure what the problem is, but probably just some other wear and tear stuff. But, you know, we're happy to get it done during practice and not during the race.
This year you've moved up to GT4 from TCR. Are you enjoying the change, going from front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive?
Actually, I changed from front-wheel drive maybe like 4 years ago. So I've been in GT4 for the past 3 years, and it's been incredible. I think I've learned the car very well, and BMW has always given us a very reliable car, so very happy.
I put that down. I've not been to a racetrack for 20 months, you see. Just got the wrong thing. So the team here, how do you feel you're shaping up against the rest of GT4 position here?
I think we've been doing very, very good. I mean, this is everybody's first time here. I think everybody is adapting very quickly. In fact, we got pole position today, so overall the team is very, very happy.
So you've not raced at Barcelona before?
No, sir. Well, we're very happy to be here. It's an incredible track. I mean, we're adapting very quickly to the dark right now, but I think we're going to be good to go for tomorrow.
I mean, so has most racing practice you been on in US and Canadian tracks, or have you done a lot of European circuits?
This is my very first year in European circuits. In fact, I don't think I've been to any of these tracks on this year's calendar, which has been quite daunting, but I think we've, I think I've managed. Some of my teammates, John and I believe Chandler, have raced in some European circuits this year, but overall most of us have just driven US and Canada.
So how do you prep for a new circuit? Do you do iRacing, do you do sim racing, or do you just come here and just ride a bicycle around?
So ironically, I am terrible at sim racing. But,
you and me both.
Just, something about that feel, the lack of the G-forces, I don't know, but what I do is I try to watch videos from the previous years and similar cars, and the track walk helps a bit, but it's not until I get into the driver's seat for the first time and actually experience it for myself that I'm able to learn so fast.
And how many laps does it take you to think, yeah, I've got this one?
Probably one session total, yeah.
So what's the plan for the rest of the evening? Are you just going to, have you got the setup already fixed, or are you going to still be tweaking?
I think we'll be tweaking a little bit, but I think we've got it down. Just fixing some little loose ends, but I think, again, we'll be good to go for tomorrow.
Thank you. Samantha Tan from the 438 car. Unfortunately, John, the 16 left whilst we were chatting. While I'll get that cut up on picture, we can identify what sort of Ferrari it is later on.
Thanks, Nick. Nick Bradley adequately representing Joe Bradley down there in the pit lane with that interview. Just coming down to an hour to go.
Did you deliberately call him Nick Bradley, therefore?
Nick Bradley.
That's what you just said, Nick Bradley.
Yeah,
but
Nick Bradley.
Maybe he is morphing slowly into Joe and his interview technique, or one side of it.
Well, yes, the other side is a quiet room with the CCTV turned off and a copy of the telephone book, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Well, good point.
We got down to 6th in the overalls. I'll run through some of the classes as well. Reiter Engineering, Horst Felbermeyer Jr. Behind the GTX, the wheel of the GTX leading KTM Crossbow. It's a similar car in second, Miguel Oliveira. And yes, that is that Miguel Oliveira, who will know this track very well, but driving it with half the amount of wheels and probably a heck of a lot less weight around him than normal. So Miguel, the motorcycle rider, he is in the True Racing 716 KTM Crossbow. That's just a couple of tenths away from the top spot in GTX. Third, just dropping into third actually, before pitting, Terry Vermeulen in the 999. That's the red Camel Jordan.nl Porsche 992 Carrera Cup car. It's the car that we were talking to Ivo Brojkas about earlier on. Fourth is the second of the True Racing KTM, Solim GTX. And that's Sedi Samini behind the wheel of the 717. 718 is the RTR Project Peter Lisra, and that's another KTM, and that's in 5th position. As far as GT4 is concerned, actually I should mention Willy Motorsport by Ebi Motor, the Fabrizio Brogi Porsche is leading the 991 Cup car class in 14th position. That's the number 955, and they've been well ahead of their competition all day today and continue to be so, lapping very much quicker. They've done a best of 156, and second in the class is the Rabdan by MRS GT Racing, and that's Nikolai Gadetsky, 2 minutes for that car, so that's a considerable advantage. GT4, Jurgensen Strom, BMW from Car Collection, Mark Issa, that's the 450 from the 499. They're blink of an eye away from each other, 3 100ths, or 32 thousandths actually, to be totally pedantic, between those two GT4 cars running in 17th and 18th position. The rest of the GT4s a little bit further down the timing and scoring, which is all available, by the way, at the 24-hour series website. The 4th GT4 car, or the third GT4 car rather, is the other BMW, and that's Nick Whitmer again out in the ST racing car. That's the Samantha Tan Racing machine. That's the 438. They're on a 206. Car that I'm slightly worried about is BARCELONA Racing. Their Cupra is in the pit lane at the moment, having only done a 208. That's a little bit off the pace of TCR, which is led by AC Motorsport and Stefan Perrin. Great to see Stefan back at this track in particular. 188 car leads from Autorama and the Volkswagen Golf in second, the number 1 car. And what I didn't see there was the time, JP, you might have seen it, of the Ginetta, or has that not been out yet this evening? Vortex?
Yeah, I can't see the 278 at all.
No.
Oh no, there it is. Yes, it has been out. Jean-Francois Bruno has been out. Third fastest in the TCE series cars.
Okay.
202.7.
Oh yes, there it is. Yeah, behind those two that I've just mentioned. If I'd just gone down one more of this, I would have seen it. Oh dear. Yes, that car is in the pits though at the moment. So again, important to point out that these times don't count for anything. 278 just into the pits at the moment. Jean-Francois is bailing out of the black and now what would we call that? Miami blue?
Teal.
House blue. Teal. Oof.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lake House Blue, not far away from that. But yeah, I mean, I remember when Colin used to race in the National Hot Rod UK Championship on the short ovals, and his car was that colour. So it's been a long
It was
association.
Always that colour, was it?
Yeah, well, not necessarily all black actually, more all the kind of teal or Leighton House blue colour, and
Nice.
he's worked towards that black colour that he runs in the domestic UK Ginetta Championship as well. I found an interesting article
Ian
here.
Stinton, who's got into that, by the way. Sorry.
Ian Stinton, yes,
Yeah.
back with the team, and that's good to see because Colin and Jean-Francois Bruno have been doing the 12-hour races just as a twosome, but Ian's raced with the team before. Just about to say, interesting article on Ferrari.com concerning this weekend and the 3 Ferraris to start the 24 hours of Barcelona. This is from Maranello, so you would think it's reliable.
Wow. First of all, how good is it they're taking notice of this race, by the way?
Well, indeed, yeah. And
they are a bit busy with other things, in fairness. Quite a lot of their cars racing in in other events around the world.
True enough, but it says this might have changed since the writing of it. 33 entries include 2 488 GT3 Evo 2020s and a 458 Italia GT3 competing in the GT division. And it goes on to say, on its debut, home team PCR Sport will entrust the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3 to Josep Maiola, Marco Carol Ibarra and Francesc Gutierrez Igui. Gutierrez did not want to miss the 2021 event to continue his record of participating in every edition of the 24 Hours of Barcelona, an endurance race in which he's racked up several victories and podiums. So it's a Gutierrez Igui. I'm sure we've mentioned several times in previous versions of this when we've covered it in the past that he's done every single one, and presumably couldn't source a 488, so they brought the old prancing workhorse out again.
I love it. We'll go to Nick in a moment. We'll go to Nick in a moment. Just want to point out that we've got the 188 AC Audi running without rear lights at the moment, so I think they've been on the radio actually. Yeah, just come into the pit lane. Spotted that one at the moment. You have more news on the Ferrari, Nick Damon.
I bet it's not a 458 after all that. Go on, Nick.
I've gone full Andrew Marriott. I can add. Yes, there is something interesting about the 16. It has a special dispensation to run on Michelin tyres.
What?
Yep, it's got a special dispensation to run on Michelin tyres in the dry. In the wet, it'll run on Hankooks. And my spy in the cab didn't know why. And once again, it's the same spy as last time. So yes, it's running. I will check that out. I'll go and check that out visually, but it has been given dispensation to run on Michelin.
And is it a 458? Have you seen it up close yet?
They're very similar. Look, I must admit, without seeing them back to back, I think it is, because remember that one of those Ferraris isn't running. The Kessel Racing Ferrari scratched, number 8. So that car isn't there with the 4 Italian drivers. Yes.
Is that because it's got an unusual tyre size then that wouldn't normally be in this series, and they haven't had time to source build them or source a different style of wheel?
Yes, apart from the fact if it's wet, it's going to run the Hankook, from the impression I have. But I will obviously do a bit more secret squirrel pit lane patrolling CSI Barcelona to find a bit more about that. But yeah, that's a very interesting piece of news. But yes, the problem is the 458 and the 488 is nothing. It's not, in some ways, it's not a massive change, is it? It's just you actually have to look at the rear of it, look at the aero more than the actual overall design, because the lights and everything are the same.
Yeah, just look at the front of the rear wheel arch, and if it's got the turbo intakes, it's a 488, because that's the difference. It's a twin turbocharged 3.9 now, whereas the 458 was a 4.5 litre V8, normally aspirated, but that was the key. I mean, exactly, and to be able to hear that screaming its way down the start-finish straight in Barcelona, I thought those days had gone. But fair play to PCR Sport for bringing out the old car once again.
But isn't that, JP? You and I talk about a lot of GT3 racing, and the 16 car just going around the far side of the circuit at the moment. Surely the whole point of BOP is that you should be able to give these cars longevity. It is a 458, there's no doubt about it. I've now seen it in its very lovely blue bodywork with the geometric stripes on the side. I think it was just heading into the pit lane there. Yes, it was, going into fuel. Mark Carroll Ibarra in that 458, and that is a 458. So when it gets back down to Nick, we'll have a proper look at it and a proper listen to it as well. But I love the idea that Creventic have found a place for it in order to keep this run going, and potentially even at odds with a major sponsor. But we'll not dwell on that. But what it tells me is just how important it is to go racing as far as the guys at Creventic are concerned, and the Hankook 24 Hours here at Barcelona. I am doffing my imaginary cap at the moment. Chapeau to everyone concerned.
And I get the feeling that the biggest concern was that it might have broken Francesc's run in the 24 Hours of I need to find out how many years that will be on the bounce if he starts tomorrow, but the 52-year-old from Girona doesn't look like he's going to snap that fantastic record this weekend, thankfully. And the only car, presumably, that they could get to the track that was available for this weekend, in a busy weekend within motor racing, as we've already said, is the 458. And it sounds like Creventic have made special dispensation for that. Nick is watching the stop for this very unusual metallic blue Ferrari, Nick.
And it absolutely is a stop. They are wheeling it back in the pits. I've no idea if that's an issue or not, but they came in quite quietly. Absolutely, as you point out, it has a very a lack of an intake, and it was red at one point. You look underneath the wrap there. The tyres are they're not marked, which is obviously good overall. Is it dispensation to run on Michelin, which is really quite strange. Who is the guy who's got the run? Is it? What's the name of the guy who's going to go for the long run?
Gutierrez.
Gutierrez, if he's around.
Gutierrez agree.
Gutierrez, I don't know who we got actually here to try and grab a World Wonder drivers. Can't see who's who. I've got to try and look at see.
I've missed seeing those cars. I've got.
I've managed to get a driver. I'm not sure which one it is. From the Ferrari. I think it's.
Make sure he's got his mask on, Nick.
Oh, did you get a mask? Do you have a mask? Yeah, he's going to put his helmet back. We'll carry on. Yeah, so yeah, it's you know, you can see that at one point it was. That's one thing I can see mostly from here, and it's been wrapped blue. But I mean, it's great to get this. As you said, the longevity in these cars is fantastic. You know, it doesn't seem to have a problem. They seem to have wheeled it back for a bit of a laugh. They're going to put it back out again now, but obviously the issue was cured, and we now have our. He's got his. Hello, sir. Which of the drivers are you?
The third driver. Yes.
And your name is?
My name is Francesc Gutierrez.
Francesco, I mean, this is a really. Francesco, this is a really interesting entry, and of course you're the guy who's made this entry happen, aren't you? Because you had to keep your run going.
Sorry, I don't.
You are the guy who has made this entry happen because you had to keep your run of being every event going.
Yes. Since '98, I made all the races since '98, and well. And for me, it's my special race. I love so much, and this is the race for me at the season. So, for me to be here, and this year is the first with the GT, and I have the opportunity to race this car. For me, is the best race, best car. It's very nice.
Tell me about this car, because it's quite old, and it's still very lovely.
Yes, this car is a 458. This is the last with atmospheric, with aspirate engine. It's from 2012 with the upgrades of 2015. But the problem is 10 years. So 10 years, the technical increase and the performance increase. And we are on a step down from the modern GT3. It's practically 1.5 seconds of difference. But this is the car that I won with my teammate, José Mayola, last year, the Spanish GT Championship, and we have a lot of illusions with this car, and I don't know what will happen tomorrow and Sunday.
I understand you're running on a different tire. Why is that?
Well, the problem is the supplier hasn't these sizes because this is the only car that uses 19 inches in the rims. So they don't have tires for us. And finally, I think Creventic arrived at a good agreement with us. We are here. Our BOP was changed, but finally we have the opportunity to participate in our home.
Fantastic. Really, really enjoy the race, and congratulations on your run.
Thank you very much.
Thanks indeed. What a great story. Love this. This is Creventic all over. Fantastic stuff. And Johnny.
We'll get back to that in a moment. The car collection Motorsport Audi with Stefan Aust at the wheel. The number 34 car is in the gravel, rear wheels in the gravel. This might be a red flag for that car to be pulled out. looks like the back end is dug in. I'm afraid he's not going to get that out of there. Front wheels are still on hard standing, but of course not a Quattro, that R8, and that is out. I think that's the exit of turn. I was going to say turn 5. I might revise that. Good 60 we're seeing.
I think it's the run down to. You're probably right, actually, because the shorter circuit goes off to the right in the distance, so it's coming out of turn 5, I think, and down underneath the bridge.
Always go with what you first think. Whilst that car is coming out, I've just done a bit of checking on the 458 Italia. They were still building them in 2020.
Wow.
Because FF Corsa took delivery of one to race in the GT Trophy race in May 2020 at Snetterton.
So they're still building race versions of the 458, you mean?
Italia GT3 was a limited edition FIA homologated car. Revised carbon fibre bodywork suspension, front and rear aero fitted with racing sequential gearbox and pneumatic paddle shift. So they clearly, FF Corsa at least, was still prepping and building them at Michelotto, and Jimmy Bruni was still helping them out back in 2020. That was posted in 2020, that story that I found. So, well, you know, that was on the FF Corsa site. So I presume they were still building them then. What I'm trying to work out is how long you normally have between 8 and 10 years after the cars have been finished for your homologation to continue. So it should be well in. 2017, the World Challenge was still listing it in its BOP. So I think it's still homologated.
Well, to give you an idea of
FIA homologated.
Yes, and the FIA give each GT3 model a number. We're up to 52 now, by the way, and that's for the McLaren 720S GT3. Before that, it was the new Aston Martin Vantage, which isn't actually that new anymore. The 458 was GT3 car 29 and came right after the SLS AMG from Mercedes and just before the Nissan GTR Nismo, so that rather places it in history, doesn't it? Whilst there's a Code 60 out, and we'll explain if you're not familiar with Creventic Racing what a Code 60 is in just a tick, but Nick Damon can grab a quick word with Jeff Westfall right now.
Jeff, last time I remember seeing you race, me personally, was back in Road Atlanta, I think in 2018, because obviously normally you're way over there, over the pond. What brings you to Europe for some GT4 running?
You know, I have some friends of mine that I've worked with in motorsports quite a bit, and this opportunity came up where they wanted to get some experience in a different format. So we called Car Collection, and we know they're going to do a top job for us here with the Audi. And we're taking it as an experiment. You know, it's a fun run for the new group that we're putting together, and seeing how they like it.
So is this perhaps a precursor to a run at the entire Creventic series?
That might be a bit aggressive, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, for me, I've done endurance racing. For them, they've done a little bit, but not a lot, and they want to get their feet wet, and I think this is a great platform for them. The Creventic series offers a very, you know, driver-friendly format to introduce yourself to driving at night. The regulations are such that it's not so much pressure. It makes a lot of sense, so this is where we're getting there.
I suppose it'd be a warm-up for Sebring at least.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it never hurts to drive, so the more you drive, the better. That's kind of as the saying goes.
I was having a look at some of the stuff you've done recently, and you really are kind of majoring on this, or the Audi R8 in its various forms. Give us an idea. I mean, this may say it's like a strange question, but you know, 1 week you're hopping in the GT3, then you're in a GT4. Apart from having less power, what else are the differences?
You know, what's actually interesting is the GT4 makes more power than the GT3, but it's heavier on a smaller tire with less aero, and so subsequently it's not quite as quick. The aero being one of the large components of that. You know, what's really interesting is the behavior from the cars are quite similar, yet they have their own tendencies. So you don't feel like you're relearning a machine, you feel like you're adapting to the strengths versus the other strengths that the one platform might have over the other.
Which is the more fun?
I mean, it's an easy question. I mean, the GT3s are, I love this era of motorsports right now because we're starting to combine actual aero downforce into sedan-style racing. Like the numbers they're producing, the way the cars are behaving. At Road America, we were 142 miles an hour at the apex of the kink. I remember when kart was at like 160. We're not that far off what an old Formula car was. So it's really, really neat. Those things are a blast to drive. They're hooked up. They're amazing.
Well, so the advantage with Formula cars is just one person driving it. How easy is it to have such a fast car that's so aero-dependent, driven by different people with different styles?
That's the great challenge of endurance motorsport, you know, is everyone that touches the car is another variable, and the whole game is minimizing variables to make as few mistakes as possible. So it is a challenge. You need to find like-minded individuals who like the balance and behavior of the car the same. That way you're not in an internal tug-of-war, which happens all too easily. So yeah, it's very important, the things that decisions are made before you even arrive at the track.
I take it for this one, you're building a comfortable car for your teammates and you'll just handle what's left, yeah?
Yeah, we're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy. It's a new experience. It's a new facility for all of us. So everyone at Branson Motorsports and Isa and Castro, like we're here to have a good time, but we're all competitors by nature. So that saying goes as like, we're just going to take it as a learning experience. I can see that going away in like the first 30 minutes.
Jeff, thanks so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Great to hear from Jeff Westfall. Such an experienced driver and really interesting comments. We are fortunate enough to see him ply his trade, of course, in the IMSA Championships back in the US. Again, Audi based entry there for Carbon is the guys that he drives for out in the US with Richard Highstand with Carbon Peregrine Racing in a GT3 version, and of course over on our sister channel next weekend it is the Monterey Sports Car Championship at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for IMSA. A rather busy and complex weekend with Porsche together at Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well, and we'll be covering both of those in sound.
We will be covering those together in sound and vision. You're tuned to RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. The 34 car collection Audi has made its way back to the pits after that was stranded in the gravel trap on the exit of turn 5. If Nick, by the way, speaks to Jeff Westfall tomorrow or Sunday, it'd be interesting to get his thoughts about the Glickenhaus project as well, because of course he raced for a number of years with Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus and Jim Glickenhaus's team. They managed to get both of their hypercars to the finish of the 24 Hours of Le Mans a couple of weekends ago. I know no longer is Jeff involved in the project, but I'm sure he would have had a bit of investment there for them to do well. Back to green, because the car that was causing the Code 60 has been recovered, as I say, and I did promise to mention exactly what a Code 60 is if you're unfamiliar with this type of racing. Well, it was a kind of concept born out of Dutch supercar racing, which Creventic has some ties with as well, and a means of calming the night practice pace and, more importantly, the race pace when we get to it tomorrow, so that a safe environment can be created for marshals to work down on track without the need for a safety car and B, even worse, a red flag. So put the Code 60 boards out. Everyone has to stick to a 60 km/h speed limit, and therefore the gaps between the cars going into the caution should be retained throughout it and then coming out the other side as well. But what it means is that the race pace is probably slow to something like 1/3 of what it would be under a green flag, and that means that the situation can be much calmer for a car to be recovered, as it just needed to be done on the exit of turn 5. So I'm sure we'll have one or two, perhaps slightly more than that, Code 60s through the course of the race. But it will mean that if during the previous stint the race leaders spent a long time building a 30-second lead, that should theoretically be retained coming out of the caution as well. Out of turn 10 goes the 717 KTM Crossbow with this lick of blue flame coming out the back of it. That's reminiscent of when the new Corvette C8R turned up at Daytona at the start of last year. and our first experience of the mid-engine Corvettes, and they also had the Bunsen burner-esque blue flame out of 2 tailpipes on that occasion. The KTM just has 1, but we weren't getting to witness that during daytime hours. Very, very prominent now that we're into the evening, though, and 5 to 10 local time. Just over 35 minutes to go. The 2 Herbert Motorsport Porsches have found one another. It is the 92 car that is second fastest, Tim Müller, in the car with the yellow door mirrors, and the 91 car, Robert Renauer, who set pole position a little earlier on. He is currently 4th fastest in the session, but it's still Krista Jørns, the former Bentley driver, in the car collection Audi, the new LMS Evo 2, not eligible to be put into the GT3 competition, so it runs in a category known as P4, but that's not stopping it being fastest so far in the session by 0.2 of a second, John.
Just a quick follow-up on Francesca Gutierrez Agui. He has won twice here, in 98 and 2008. Where was he in 2018, you've got to ask yourself. 4 times a class winner, 2000, 2011, 2014 and 2018, and has represented 5 different manufacturers: BMW, Honda, Seat, Cupra, Vortex, and now Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Barcelona. Great story. And by the way, Jeff Westfall, what a great chap. Great to hear Nick talking to him. Very considered driver, as we've got the 999 with a spin out on the circuit, and the four-way flashes have come on. See, I do think that had happened before. That's Ivo Breukers again, getting used to the polar moment of inertia that is the rear-engine Porsche. So I think he'd had a spin before, JP, when we saw that car before with its 4-way flashes on, because you've got to cancel that.
Yeah,
after you've had an incident.
Yeah,
I've noticed that in the Carrera Cups.
Okay, so the car recognising it's been in a moment and turning those on automatically. Whilst we ponder that, let's head back to Nick Damon.
With Miguel Oliveira. Miguel, you know, you've got twice as many wheels as normal. How did this happen?
It's a bit more complicated. I have to say it's more natural to drive with 2, but with 4 is also pretty fun.
Now, of course, you're tackling this circuit where you won just a few weeks ago. You won the MotoGP here, so you must have great memories.
Yeah, great memories. Barcelona has always been a track which I enjoyed it a lot with the MotoGP and also in other classes, and always held a good performances here.
So how much of what you learn as a MotoGP rider can you transfer to the race car?
I think just the racing spirit. the rest is completely different. From the lines, the braking points, everything is just different, and I think only the spirit. Yeah.
Can you perhaps explain to people who are watching and listening, how are the lines different on a motorcycle to a car then?
Well, first of all, I think we searched the apex much earlier than the cars, and obviously the braking points are much shorter because you brake much later, and so this is the main difference. Also, out of the corners, we try to be more close to the inside curb than on the outside. So that's the main differences.
And I suppose what you're getting from that KTM is great cornering speeds, but not the acceleration you're used to with a 250 horsepower MotoGP bike.
Yeah, the acceleration and the top speed are quite different. But I tell you, this KTM car gives us great emotions. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was actually lucky enough to see you. I was watching qualifying at Silverstone last week. What's it like going through the Maggots-Beckett's complex on a motorcycle? It looks unbelievable. You're going there so fast. You're leaning before you get there. You're going down 3 gears.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy sometimes watching from the outside what we do, but we don't think about it, and I think that's really the key.
Disengage brain and just twist the wrist, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but it's crazy. You know, I think we are quite fortunate to drive this kind of machines. We have great speeds, great accelerations, and the bikes are getting better and safer. So it's really a privilege. Yeah.
Coming back to this weekend, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know whether this is your first car race. I mean, is this something you think you'll do quite regularly, or just a lucky one-off?
Yeah, I mean, it is my first time here racing anything on 4 wheels. Mr. Hubert Trukenpolf invited me to come here, and so I'm happily to take part and just have fun.
What are your feelings for the rest of the MotoGP season? You've got that win, but it's been a bit up and down so far, isn't it?
Yeah, up and downs, but I think we need to catch back a little bit the flow, the rhythm, and from Aragon onwards next weekend we hope to be back on the podium.
Thank you, Miguel. Best of luck. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
What a lovely bloke.
I know.
Miguel Oliveira. Yeah, he was the whole MotoGP experience. Trackside was an eye-opener for both Nick and I, both keen motorcyclists, but those guys are completely differently wired. Extraordinary feats of bravery, of skill, of talent, of application. Good to see him here. Maybe a career on four wheels when he decides that he doesn't want to be rolling down the road at 174 miles an hour like Marc Marquez did at Silverstone. Possibly following Valentino Rossi into cars. Valentino making it absolutely clear that what he wants to do is go into car racing full-time, do the Le Mans 24 hours. He's rated as a silver driver by the FIA. I knew he wasn't a bronze. I have to say I thought he was a gold at one stage, but he is a silver driver. And the smart money is on Valle jumping into a GTE car next year and getting some experience on the WEC. Wow, big moment there for the number 18 Ferrari, and also a bigger moment for Stefan Rosina in the other KTM Crossboard GTX from True Racing, not the one that Miguel's in. That's the 717, and he is off the track at the exit of turn 1 into turn 2, just where the penalty loop is for MotoGP, ironically, seeing as though we've been talking to a MotoGP rider. Aragon next week, MotoGP, the wall. Oof. It's my weekend viewing sorted. That's not coming out of there, JP, without a snatch tractor, is it?
Well, there have been some big old moments going into the first corner through the years. Thankfully, Stefan was able to, either he was a passenger at that point and the car was already going backwards, or he's flung it into a slide so that it enters the gravel trap backwards. But gravel's done its job, hasn't it? Whether there was some contact maybe in the middle of the corner. But Stefan Rosina is gold rated by the FIA, so technically higher than Valentino Rossi, unbelievably. Man from Slovakia. He... Oh, no, are we saying that's Peter Cox now in the 717?
Yeah, has that car just come out of the pits after a driver change? Well, the 717 on the timing screen is showing a Stefan Rosina. So I'm going with Stefan. I can't see the helmet at the moment inside of that fighter cockpit. Peter Cox is a sort of red, white and blue stripes on his helmet, and I don't think that's Peter's helmet. So I'm going with the timing screen for the moment.
The car,
by the way,
wasn't on an outlap, but it has just done its fastest lap. It's just did its fastest lap of the session. So clearly, whoever it is, either Stefan or Peter, was really hustling on, and maybe got the rest of the radio message. That's your fastest lap, and takes you to third in the category, GTX category, and then has the moment.
Oh, hang on. There is a bit of blue on that helmet. That might be Peter Cox's helmet.
It also says Cox on the side of it, I've just noticed.
Yeah, it is Peter Cox. I didn't
Peter.
see the blue on his helmet. Yeah, so it is Peter Cox. So a bit of a timing error on there. My apologies. And by the way, we found another manufacturer for Francesc. We missed out Renault. So that's a sixth manufacturer that he's driven in here. BMW, Honda, Seat and Cupra were having as one. Vortex Ferrari this weekend, and Renault was the one we missed out.
quite some run, and I'm really pleased that it remains, well, as long as they get a start tomorrow, it will remain unbroken, because I'd be very surprised if he's got that many finishes from 1998, but he has been present at each of the weekends, the 24 Hours of Barcelona not being part of this championship last year. I haven't quite got to the bottom of whether it ran at all, though, in September, or whether it was sort of struck off the list. Therefore, Gutierrez wouldn't be counting it. Nick Damon, during another Code 60, because of Peter Cox's off at turn 2, who have you got this time?
I found our old friend. It's JM Lippman. He's late with the mask. There we go. JM, it's great to see you at another Creventic event, another car. You never seem to drive with the same team twice. Is there a reason for that?
I think it speaks for itself, doesn't it? No, I sometimes race with the same team and the same car, but I always like trying different things, and the KTM is a very different car. And a last-minute deal came together with RTR Projects, and I said, would you like to come and race with us? Like, yeah, that makes like a good sense.
So give us what the KTM is compared to, well, everything else you've driven, the Porsches and everything else.
It is nothing like anything else I've ever driven. It doesn't drive like an NMP3 car, or a Radical, or a GT car. It's very digital in the way it drives, actually. It kind of feels a bit like racing on a sim that we've done. It has a kind of a similar feel to it. And but it's a lot of fun. It makes a really good noise. The best thing about it is the visibility. Because out the shell, the clamshell, you can see everything. It's almost like driving a single-seater. It's incredible visibility, almost like, again, like a Caterham that I've raced. But it's a fantastic-looking car. The team did a fantastic job. P1 in qualifying, beat the factory team. So that was great. And, yeah, we'll just have to see how we do in the race.
Typical mid-engine handling car?
No, not at all. Actually, quite. You could drift it. I mean, I went out in free practice. Don't take any chances, JM, and I immediately got a proper drift on it. And I was like one-handed in steering, so nothing like a Lotus Exige, which will just snap round. You can feel what it's doing because you're in a carbon tub, carbon seat. You can feel it, but it still feels quite digital.
And so, you see the late deal came through, and normally you're the fifth man on the team sheet. You don't always get in the car. You hope to actually make it this time.
Well, you know what? Tomorrow's 30 centigrade. I don't mind waiting until it gets dark for certain, but we haven't even decided who's starting, even though it's probably going to be Eric. And let's hope it goes better than Dubai and everything else that's preceded it. I'm due for a good result.
And give us an idea, obviously you kind of pick and choose your race. Give us an idea how you decide what you're going to race.
It depends on the climate. No, listen, I've always loved Barcelona. It's always a fantastic city to come to, which is one of the big things. The food's good. You can see with my planning here, it's mostly to do with the weather and how good a time I have. But I tell you one thing, I've raced in quite different lot of series this year. And Creventic is still the friendliest, the warmest place you want to come to race, because it is a bit like family, even though we do race hard. And they look after the customers, which is us lot. And I think a lot of series forget that. So thank you guys, because you do look after us.
Thank you, JM. And JM is a true racer because he actually drove here all the way from the UK in his McLaren. Bit of a shot for the McLaren, but not only can he afford the drive, he can afford the fuel for his McLaren as well.
Yeah, it's a good drive down, actually. A beautiful drive down. All at the speed limit as well.
Of course. Thanks, JM.
Naturally, JM Lippman there talking to Nick Damon. The Eric that JM mentioned, Eric Yanis, who is one of 5 drivers actually down to be piloting that car through the course of the weekend. But yeah, 30 degrees tomorrow at a midday start, probably the hottest the sun will be. Will be tough actually for anyone who's chosen for that opening stint, or indeed the next couple. Probably much wiser to wait until sunset and the evening hours, where the fans are potentially going to be more numerous, and also the temperatures slightly more able to bear through the course of the night. 21 minutes to go, John.
Just over, and still that invitation car, if you want to call it that. Chris de Jean's behind the wheel of the Car Collection Motorsport Run Audi number 500. This is the new Evo 2 version of that car. Herbert in second with the 92 car. Then the Ferrari. So 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 in this evening session. Jorge Weiss in the WTM powered by Phoenix Ferrari number 22. In the classes, it's still Reiter from True Racing in the GTX class. Willy Motorsport by EB Motors, nobody's got near their time. 1:55 in that 991 category. Duo Racing has improved, and at least have got under 2 minutes. They're now second in the 991 category, in the pits in the 909 at the moment. In GT4, Chandler Hull is out in the BMW M4 GT4 number 438. That's the ST Racing car. They're under 2 minutes as well. That's not hanging around, is it, in a GT4 car? Under 2 minutes around Barcelona. TCR, Autorama, Yasmin Freisig is behind the wheel of the number 1 Volkswagen Golf GTI. And in TCX, the Ginetta, a little bit off the pace this evening. They've only done a 2:02, and their last lap was a 10 minutes 28, so something had gone wrong there, or they'd crossed the line and been in the pits for a little while. That's what will have happened, won't it, before they've come round again. Angus Fender, who had a couple of laps at the end of qualifying but couldn't improve the time set by Colin White, and that car will start, Johnny, on pole for the TCE part of the race tomorrow.
Yes, there were 2 sessions earlier on in the day, each of 30 minutes in total. So the first one was for the TCE series cars, and I have to say Ginetta G55 still doesn't spring immediately to mind when you're thinking about TCE cars, but that is where it's been put for a couple of years now. They used to run in SP3 from memory, and there used to be special classes as part of the Creventic series, but that was adjusted a handful of years ago, and TCX and TCR are now the 2 classes as part of the TCE series, but it's a completely separate championship from the GT series, and effectively 2 races taking place at the same time, therefore, with a completely different podium for the cars with the blue backing on their race numbers. But yes, Colin White took the pole, 1:55.962, from the best of the TCR cars, which was the AC Motorsport Audi Mathieu Detry setting the time. He's going to be sharing that car with Stéphane Perrin, James Kay and Vincent Rademacher in the 188. So we've got one of each class represented on the front row in TCE, and it was a great lap from Robert Renauer, a 1:46.587 a little earlier today, setting the pole position time for the 91 Herbert Motorsport Porsche crew from the 22 Ferrari, which is the WTM powered by Phoenix entry these days. But we managed to get 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 of qualifying: Porsche, Ferrari, Audi and Mercedes. Retronic Racing's number 18 Audi for Pierre Caffer from the 85 CP Racing Mercedes for the American crew. And they're back with their usual lineup of Charlie Putman, Charles Espenlaub, Joe Foster and Shane Lewis. Another car off the track briefly is the 499 GT4 Audi, and Lisa Clark currently at the wheel of that for the American squad. 22nd so far in this session. Lisa wasn't that far away from the end of the lap, due across the line now, in fact, because the timing screen from the 24/8 series gives you a little countdown on one of the columns to tell you when the car is expected. So was that just before turn 13? Yeah, I reckon it is, because that's where Lisa's going from now. 13 through 14 and 15 at the chicane, and turn 16, the final corner, to bring you back onto the main straight.
Coming down the last quarter of an hour or thereabouts at RSL_studio. Thank you to all. Alan Prosser using the hashtag that we mentioned, hashtag RSLB24. This is the wonderful beauty of racing in the dark, and he's got a couple of screen grabs there, including the marks in the gravel trap at turn 5, which are rather arty actually, where the snatch tractor has been in, particularly when the car headlights are shining down from the apex of turn 5 to the exit. A few people have been wide there. It almost looks like the tide's coming in. A little bit further away from the coast than that here at the circuit of Catalonia, Barcelona. Railway line just running round the back of the main grandstand. Although the trains only stop here, I think, on major event days. Not too far away from the Costa Brava, just what, half an hour, 40 minutes up the coast from here, and about the same distance down the coast to Barcelona, which I always forget, Johnny, until we're there, that Barcelona is effectively a seaside city. I forget there are lovely beaches at Barcelona. I think of the town, the architecture, Montjuic, the old racetrack there, the Olympic Village, all of that, and I forget about the beach and the fact that it's a port and a beach city.
Yeah, really not very far you have to drive in order to get to some very picturesque beaches indeed. I mean, the track is almost easily passed on the freeway because, yes, it sort of climbs up to the right-hand side as you leave, but where the sign's not there, you'd kind of drive past it because it's easily missed, as I say. But then when you suddenly arrive there, you think, God, this is one heck of a venue, and you therefore forget, because it's sort of almost out in the industrial side of Barcelona, and the touristy bit, the city centre, is a little way away, a train ride or what, sort of 30-minute car ride. But yeah, you've got to remember that you're really not very far from the French border, and some beautiful beaches, particularly north of this area. And I'm sure, well, that's what J.M. Lippman was alluding to, the fact that you get some good food, some good scenery, some good driving roads in his McLaren between the UK and Spain as well. Nick, Damon, 14 minutes to go. What have you got from the pits?
Well, a lot of people are packing up. They've done their night laps, and I've just taken from a cosy conversation. It's Wim Spinoy from the 221 car, which, I must get this title correct, is the Team ACP Tangerine Associates car. And then first thing I'll say is your car, and hopefully get a picture, is unbelievably clean. Even look at the shininess of the calipers.
It's completely new, so it didn't have any kilometers before, so it's completely new, so that's why it's shiny. I hope it doesn't stay like this, because then we might have a lot of problems.
So you want it to be slightly dirty because you've used it, but not very dirty because you've thrown it into a barrier somewhere.
Yeah, that's true, honestly. Let's hope we keep out of trouble, because it's, for us in this car, it's really hard to do the night with all the faster cars and stuff like that, so it's not so easy for the moment.
Is that because they're just kind of buzzing you, or has the car itself got problems in traffic?
You know, you always drive on the racing line, but there are some points at the circuit where GT3 is coming from so far behind, and I understand, because I was driving also before GT3, so I understand they are matching but the problem is, in your mirrors, it's complete white spots, so you don't see where they are actually coming, so it's more or less a little bit guessing.
Can you tell from the lights whether it's a GT3 that's behind you or a TCR that's behind you?
No, you don't. You cannot judge anything anymore. So it's just yourself, and at the end, it's really difficult for us to judge it.
So is there any way you can get Catesby and Jim to do all the night running?
No. You know, I was here 2 years ago, so I will get used to it once again. It's just an adaptation in kind of car. You used to look just in front of you. Now I have to drive the other way around, but it does not work when you are always driving in the mirrors. So I have to keep on the line, and the guys have to pass me wherever they want. But so.
And is it, I mean, in clear air, is it a nice car to drive? Is it a well-handling car?
Wow. I mean, it's a super easy car to drive. It's not really a complete sports car, because it's more or less 80% a street car from the braking and stuff like that. On the other hand, it's less exhausting, so it's kind of nice. I mean, it's not so slow on the straights and stuff like that. It's really fast. It's just, yeah, it doesn't have any arrow, so that's it. It's a little bit adaptation.
And have you got air conditioning in the car?
Yes, we have, but it doesn't work very well, honestly. Yeah, but we have a cooling system inside on the body, so that works perfectly.
So, Wim, yeah, you're up in a battle against Colin White. Do you think you'll be able to beat them?
I think we only can beat them when they drop down. I mean, Ginetta is on pure race pace 5 seconds quicker. So when the car breaks, okay. But I see now in the night when my two Americans with the TCEs, they are some drivers. I think we can do a pretty awesome job. And the organization is looking what they can do. Maybe we can fill up during code 60 fully up, so that we can manage the difference. But pure on race pace, no, not possible.
Well, Vin, the only good news for you is I've been to many, many of these races, and there always seems to be some sort of problem that Ginetta has.
Honestly, that's what we are hoping for. We already know from the guys from Ginetta that also the tire management is a mess. So at the end, for this car, we can double sync with the tires and we can stay in the same, and that will be our strategy. We have to do 24 hours the same laps, and that's it. And I think then we can be pretty nice up.
Best luck, Vin. Thanks for talking to us. So it's a real case of tortoise in the hair. But this is the best looking hair I've seen.
Well, unintentionally then, you've done a full circle from the first man you spoke to during our coverage today, Christian Frankenhout, because the last time Wim did this race, 2 years ago, as he said, Barcelona 24, he was in the Hoffa Racing Mercedes with Christian Frankenhout, with Kenneth Heyer, with Alex Prince, and with Michael Kroll. So, yeah, last time we saw Christian in a GT3 car was probably, well, if not Barcelona, it will have been the last GT3 round of 2019. And Christian back again to race in TCE, as is his former teammate Wim Spinoy there.
And we found out then that wasn't an old Cup 5 car. That's a brand new built racing car on the M2 competition. So we found out, and it did look very new, didn't it? Very new indeed. Well, they're going to run it in this weekend, Johnny, aren't they?
I was going to say, yeah, but it's had zero owners, zero careful owners to this point, and now, yes, Wim's going to race it with his American teammates, and it will, assuming they get the car to the finish, and ideally for them win the class, it will look very, very different, won't it, after 24 hours of running around Barcelona, and that's exactly what we like to see, race cars that have shown that they've done an awful lot of hard work twice around the clock. And
I know exactly what he means, mind you, about what he was saying about what's coming up behind you.
Yeah.
Because with the LED light bars, the KTM 716 at the moment with its Bunsen burner out the back, they're on reheat at the moment. But on the front, their lights are LED. Then they've got a light bar right down low, and all you see behind you is a big white spot. And you can't, I mean, even if you've just passed somebody, all you see behind you is a big white spot. So you think to yourself, is that the bloke I've just passed, or is that somebody gaining on me? And by the time you've had that thought, a GT3 car's whipped past you. I mean, it is, particularly when you're in a car that doesn't have a lot of downforce, or you're braking a lot earlier than the GT3s. They are phenomenal things. These KTMs are really grown on me. Jet, rather badly advised, I think, sent me the brochure for the KTM, for the GT2 version of that car, and a list of stockists and dealers. I think that was very poor, very poor tactically there. I may have to have a word with the responsible adult. I could see myself in one of those. He's getting in and out a bit easier.
And how far away is the nearest dealer from
I have a dead look.
Okay, good. That's a good move. Because the last thing you want to hear is there's somewhere on the A43.
Yeah, there's somebody at Peterborough. Yeah, that's... Although, in fairness, we were talking about the little Alpines earlier on, and that's prepped and ready to race. That's just over 100,000 euros, which is, you know, quite a lot of money, even when you say it fast. But in terms of the value for money that you get nowadays, you were talking about those Porsche 992s. I was talking to a well-known British Porsche Carrera Cup team a few weeks ago, and for quite a long time now, and you know this because you work in the British touring car paddock, JP, all of the teams, they don't buy the cars, they get them on Porsche finance. They lease them because they've got such a good residual value that they lease them for 18 months or 2 years, get a season and a half or 2 seasons out of them. Then they effectively trade them in for another one, or they sell them on and pay off the lease and get another one. extraordinary. Race cars on, effectively, on a PCP.
And if you're very clever, in amongst that finance deal, you can also then rent it to a team to run in a 24-hour race in between your domestic rounds, which sounds
That's
like
very clever.
Sounds like what Speed Lover have done to Red Camel. I think it was Wim Mulders who raced the Porsche that is being sported by Red Camel this weekend at the Red Bull Ring that I was referring to many hours ago now, because Speed Lover had 2 Porsches in the Austrian races for the Benelux Championship. One for Dom Bastian, who raced at Le Mans this year, and the other for Wim Mulders.
And we've seen, I mean, they used to be 978, didn't they, Speed Lover?
Yes.
That was one of their numbers, and they always had a couple of cars in the 991 class in this championship and in these races. And they've obviously run a pretty tight ship, and they know their way around a flat 6 engine car that we're talking about. Actually, just going through turns 1 and 2 at the moment. We've got 499 and 999, not too far away from each other. But this is the 999, the Porsche 992, Type 992 Porsche 911 Cup car. It's on the new for this year. And in fact, just going past the 499 and into, now where's that? That must be turn 3, is it? Heading up towards the, oh no, it's the end of the lap that they were coming down to. That was 13.
So Thierry Vermeulen drives the Red Camel Porsche, and it's just gone by Lisa Clark, who's recovered nicely from her little spin towards the end of the lap, somewhere in the final sector, I think I worked that out as, out of turn 12, and has been producing some very consistent times since then. Last time around did just over a 2-minute lap. Nathan Freak last out in the 450, but that's been parked up for a little while now, which is the RHC Jorgensen Strom BMW. But it's interesting that Nathan's driving as well. He is Century Motorsports, so preparing the car, but obviously found a bit of time for him to get into the driver combination as well. Why not, indeed?
I like the comment from Nick. So it's had 0 careful owners, that race car, and our good friend Johannes Greiglica, one of our favourite Austrians, is saying, isn't that the story of every race car, though, 0 careful owners, no matter whether it's brand new or 20 years old? Yes, I see what you're saying there, JG. I really do. The new Audi is back in the pit lane, resplendent in its Audi Sport Customer Racing colour scheme of silver with the dark red stripe over the bonnet and the trapezoidal markings on the roof. And Nick Damon is down there having a look to see if he can spot any obvious differences between that and, let's say, the 34 car collection Audi, which is out on the circuit at the moment, the number 34. Right, have you've passed your
big one.
critical and technical eye over it, Nick? What have you got down there with that Audi?
There's some difference there. Looks the same. The big difference is back here, visual, of course, and it's got a kind of reverse.
Hang on, wait till we get you up.
It's got a reverse swan neck.
Yeah.
So the swan neck doesn't come up and over like that. It comes all the way back like that. So it's like a really, I just want to sort of touch the wing like that, just hold it up. And it's got a much more spoony and curved element to the wing, which is straight in the old car. So oddly, I thought the aero difference was most obvious in the strakes and the ticks and the flicks, but that is by far the most obvious change. I know they made thousands of minor changes to make the car more easy to drive, more adjustable, and that sort of thing.
Difference to the rear, the outer rear wing treatment as well, I think, just a little bit as well. But that's cleaning up the airflow to the front of the wing. So what Nick's saying is the stairs for the wing. We were talking about the swan necks before, where it's almost like somebody is just dangling their fingers down and holding up the rear wing on the Porsche, and indeed on the previous version of the LMS GT3 Audi. But those were forward of the rear wing, in towards the back window of the car. What Nick's saying is that the rear wing stays come out from the boot lead in roughly the same place, but then they are at a much different angle and going behind the wing and out behind the car, and then doubling back over the trailing edge of the wing, the back edge of the wing, and that's how the wing is affixed. Really interesting how they've taken those wing pylons, JP, out of the airflow in front of the wing, to clean that airflow up in front of the wing. That's the sort of technology, that's the attention to detail we're looking at on these Evos now.
Yeah, and I'm trying to work out whether therefore the angle of the wing is more easily achieved, because effectively the order from the front to the back of the car now is rear wing and stay, whereas before it was stay and rear wing. And you're kind of getting the stay well out of the way and then suspending it from the leading edge. And it's fascinating to me how they've kind of come up with the idea that is a better design for the new car.
One thing that it strikes me as straight away is that taking the wing pylons, the wing stays out from in front of the wing, probably doesn't make a huge amount of difference going in a straight line, but I bet when the vehicle is in yaw, when it's turning, which is, you know, where the aero really does its work on these GT3 cars, I bet that really cleans up the airflow to the front wing element, the leading edge of the wing. Because what you've got on the old version of the car is you've got two supports that are right in front of the leading edge, and as soon as you put any turn into the car, any yaw into the car, then obviously the air that was in a straight line is just going either side of that. It gets broken up and starts to move to one side of those stays, and that breaks up how it hits the front of the wing, where you want a nice clean run onto the front of the wing so that you can manage that air coming off. It's more likely to be in a straight line as it comes off, so it's probably not as crucial about what the steers do behind it. But if you notice how what an acute angle those rear wing mounts are on the back, how it goes underneath that rear wing, I'm really fascinated by it. I need now to find somebody who knows about aero and talk about why they would do that and what the advantages might be. Because, you know, we're looking at the different ways that wings are mounted on the back of these cars here. We have a vast array of different solutions to the same problem, don't we?
Perforated stays as well, which I think is generally the way of things now, so that the airflow can still get through them if necessary.
Yes, correct.
But it's very, very slim carbon fibre, metal. Not sure what the stays will be made of, but at least the airflow can travel through them along with either side of them too.
Check your flags out.
There you go. As we are stuck into rear wing chat this late on in the evening, just gone 10:30 on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. Night practice pretty much done then, and there aren't that many cars still out on track. They've all received the checkered flag, it would seem, and Krista Yearns will be top of the shop despite that car no longer running. We were talking a great deal about the 500 car, but it had already made its way back to the pits and then the garage, and as per Creventic rules, being pushed the final distance into the garage. You cannot drive a car under its own steam into the garage itself. Mauro Calamia, the best of the legal GT3 cars, because remember the new Audi not yet been homologated. So Porsche 911 GT3 from Dynamic Motorsport will end the session night practice fastest with a 149.208 from Marco Seefried's Herbert Motorsport Porsche 149.3, so just a tenth and a bit between them. Henrik Still was the last in the number 22 Ferrari. At certain angles, in fact, is that car missing a little bit of bodywork on the front right corner? Yes, it is. It's all right. I caught a glimpse of the WTM livery earlier on. It's not. Okay, it's again a trick of the light then, because I've caught it on a couple of occasions on the left-hand side as well.
It's a bit of chrome livery on that car, and it was reflecting back the pit lane, so it looked like you could see through it. I'm told, by the way, Ella Filipponi has said that reverse swan neck design on the R8 is also on the R8 GT2. But it looks like the GT3 has got a bigger wing element to it.
Nick
but
Damon
the mounting is similar.
Nick's going to look at the rear wing of the current Audi and describe that to us. Describe the differences.
Well, the main difference is, as you said, it's an up and over. It's a traditional swan neck, but also this is a straight line. Whereas, of course, the new one has very much a curved end. They've done obviously, the rear aero, where they've done a huge amount of work, which is obviously going to improve stability. It may well have a number of other advantages and get the same downforce for less drag. It's an easy win. Yep.
Nick, am I right in saying then that the rear wing on the new car is moved further forward over
that's
the
a really
deck
good point.
rather than sticking out of the back?
Let me
Because
have a look.
Significantly sticking out the back.
The front plane is about level with the boot opening line. Let me have a quick shifty. You might not do this in camera. I might have to use my eyes.
Right, excellent.
I'm not wandering off now to do this now. And okay, yeah, the whole thing's further forward. The new area is further forward.
Yeah, that makes sense, to get it closer to the rear window of the car to smooth the airflow up and get that further forward. And also you've actually decreased the length of the car, which means you can probably do more on your diffuser underneath to stretch that out a bit longer. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Well, what an interesting first day, Mr. Palmer and Mr. Damon.
I've got the results from the session, if we can whip through those, unless you've got something to chat to, Nick, but we'll get to that in a second, because I should be able to get through the results fairly quickly. So 500, as I said, that's the car collection. The new Audi, 149.127 tops the session. The 7 Dynamic Motorsport Porsche 911 will be the top of the GT3 class, 149.2, and a 149.3 from another Porsche, this time Herbert Motorsport number 92. Third was the 22, and still very much in one piece, WTM powered by Phoenix Ferrari. But I tell you, at night, I'm going to catch that from several different angles and be convinced that there is front splitter damage. I'll just have to remember that the Wochenspiegel Team Monschau livery with the newspaper-esque colours is a little bit deceiving in that respect. 149.4. Rutronic Racing, Audi R8 Lms, that's the Doppelmayr, Kaffer, Earhart and Herberger car. Fourth in GT3, fifth overall. Sixth place for the other Herbert Motorsport Porsche. That's the pole sitting car for tomorrow, 149.8. 150.2 for the 34 car collection Motorsport Audi that brought out the first code 60 in the gravel at the exit of turn 5. And eighth position, Edex Sports Mercedes number 17, a 150.4. PCR Sports older GT3 car, the 458 Italia Ferrari, 150.6, and that is ninth overall. 10th position for the True Racing GTX Class leader, 716 KTM Crossbow, 151.8. CP Racing is another GT3 car. That's the Mercedes from the USA, 11th fastest. 12th quickest for the Reiter Engineering KTM Crossbow, number 724, ahead of another similar machine from Austria, True Racing's 717. The RTR Project's KTM Crossbow is 14th, number 718. Treble 9, the Red Camel Jordans.NL Porsche Cup car that runs in GTX was 15th, ahead of Willy Motorsport by Ebby Motors 991 class Porsche. First of the two, Vortex, comes next. 17th position for car number 712. ST Racing finishes the best GT4 car in night practice. 18th fastest for a 158.6 lap time. Duvo Racing's Porsche from Luxembourg, number 909, was 19th quickest, ahead of the 450 R8C Jorgensen Strom by Century BMW. Car Collection Motorsports Audi 499 in the GT4 division finished 21st, ahead of Rabdam by MRS GT Racing's Porsche 22nd. The other Vortex 701 23rd, and the Speed Lover Porsche 978 in the 991 class was 24th place. In TCE series, Autorama Motorsport topped the session, a 159.6, ahead of the Baz Kooten entered 125 Cupra. So goal from Cupra from Ginetta G55, and the best of the TCX cars was the CWS Engineering entered Ginetta third fastest. AC Motorsports Audi was fourth, ahead of Bapora Motorsports Cupra 151 fifth. The other Autorama Motorsport Golf was in sixth place. Then the team ACP Tangerine Associates BMW 7th, and the Rail Equipe by Totcar Sport Cupra was in 8th position. 90 minutes of useful running for all of the teams, and a reminder of what happened then over the last hour and a half.
So still not too bad. We've got the Alpine race in the morning, and then we'll have Nick back on duty on the grid. You do not want to miss that. If you're staying up overnight, we've got some Porsche racing for you on radio-show.co.uk, and we will have the 2021 edition of the 24 Hours of Barcelona for the Trofeo Fermi Velez on Saturday. We are live from 11:30 Central European Summer Time. Nick and a lot of people that he's trying to identify. Remember, 20 months he keeps saying he's been away. Will he still have the same style, the same wit, the same balance on that pit lane walk? There's only one way to find out. Tune in to us tomorrow. Johnny Palmer was with me, John Hindhoff, in the Global Broadcast Centre. Thanks to 021 and everyone with Creventic for all the technicals at the track and up in our London main control room. It was Tim Gray tonight, who's our executive producer, Eve Hewitt, our responsible adult, and Nick Damon, our man on the beat in the pits. That's your lot for Friday. We have a full 24 hours of racing to cover for you over the weekend. Join us then. Bye-bye.
One championship, 8 races, legendary circuits, drivers from all over the world, one family, one passion, endurance racing. Welcome to the most professional endurance racing series for all drivers, amateurs, semi-professional and professional. Welcome to the 24-hour series powered by Hankook. Round 1, the Hankook 24 Hours of Dubai. Round 2, the Hankook 12 Hours of Mugello. Round 3, the Hankook 12 Hours of Circuit Paul Ricard. Round 4, Hankook 12 Hours of the Hockenheim Ring. Round 5, Hankook 24 Hours of Portimao. Round 6, the Hankook 24 Hours of Barcelona for the Trofeo Fermi Velez. Round 7, the Coppa Florio for the Hankook 12 Hours of Sicily. Round 8, the Hankook 24 Hours of Sebring. Can you beat the challenge of 8 endurance races? Will you become the 24-hour series champion for 2021? This is endurance. Call your racing friends and register now.